You're listening to the Youth Critic Podcast on KHZ Network. Find us on Facebook at DecibelUNG Radio and find us on Twitter at DecibelUNG. If you like this episode, please leave a like and comment on our iTunes page at KHZ Network. And now for the podcast.
Possible earthquake near the Statue of Liberty.
Looks like you should have left town a little bit earlier.
Whatever you're doing, stop.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Youth Critic Podcast. I'm your host, Gail Smith. Joining me today is Gina Aversa.
Hello, how you doing?
And today we are going to be talking about Netflix's new movie, The Cloverfield Paradox, the third movie in the Cloverfield cinematic universe.
Mm-hmm.
And also the second movie that J.J. Abrams and his company have retrofitted into this universe.
Yes.
What?
Not always good to do.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great, JJ. Not always good, but hey, 10 Cloverfield Lane is still a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Still a really solid movie. I wish it was still on. I wish it was still on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Gene, why don't you, before you say your thought, why don't you describe people? Well, actually, before we get to the plot of the movie, let's kind of just give a picture to the audience about how we discovered this movie, how we as the audience, or we as, media consumers have discovered the film. So, Gene, why don't you describe how this movie came to be?
Well, I believe Abrams was making a film called The God Particle, and it was screening a lot of test screenings. And you kind of knew it in your back pocket that he was making that, and he had it, ready to go. It just seemed like it was getting a lot of bad deals concerning distribution. I think Paramount they probably spent like $40 million, something like that, and they weren't going to release it.
On Wikipedia, the budget is currently at 45.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not better.
Yeah.
It was getting a raw deal, and then I think there was Ava
DuVernay tweet that it was like something's gonna happen, it's gonna explode. It reminded me of remember that episode with something like a skeleton, and it's like they thought it was like Judgment Day, and then it's just like advertising like a mall. It reminded me of that. Like, it was a very ominous sign. Everyone was like, what is it? And then it's like, oh, Cloverfield Paradox. You saw a commercial for it on the Super Bowl. It was really quick, and flashed by, and it went down that it's going to be on Netflix, and then it got word that it was going to be on tonight, and we all saw it. Yep. So as the Netflix deal is it still kind of coming out, because really no one really quite anticipated the movie. I mean, some sites knew that a Netflix deal to get God Particle, or what's now the Cloverfield Paradox now out. Like, there was always, there was a Netflix deal kind of maybe going on. This was reported during Sundance, but no one really quite sure if it was going to be legit or not, if it was going to go through. Because about a month ago, the release date had went from February to late April. So it could still have gone either way. And then as the Super Bowl was happening, Ava DuVernay, and I think there was a couple other people on Twitter that were basically saying there's something happening, that's alluding to like something big is happening after the game, and it's going to be game changing. And of course, the game changing thing was a big studio production. Well, a mid-range big studio production is now on Netflix, and not only is it on Netflix, it literally got dumped on right after the game, and they used the kind of, and they kind of sold it to like millions of people that were watching the game and the commercials, and no one knew, no one expected it, and it built this anticipation throughout the rest of the game to finally, so when the movie finally came out, like after the game was over, you can finally either go watch the This Is Us episode that was the Super Bowl TV episode, which actually wasn't that bad of an episode. I've not seen a lot of This Is Us, but it was actually not that bad of an episode.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay. I've never seen that.
it's not that bad.
All right.
And then, but you can watch Cloverfield Paradox, and a lot of people did, and it created kind of this problem because people were live tweeting the movie, live tweeting spoilers, and
Yep.
So it was like if you had to have watched, either stayed off the internet and watched in the morning, or you had to like watch it that night. But yeah, it was a movie that was in production. It was actually supposed to come out last year, but then they did all the reshoots and whatnot, and kind of reconfiguring. They brought in Doug Jung. I'm sorry if I mispronounced Doug Jung, the co-writer of Star Trek Beyond. It kind of helped work on the rewrites as well, and getting into and kind of smoothing into Cloverfield Paradox. Real quick, I think it's a solid movie.
Yeah, I really think it is. Yeah, it's like, I don't think it's like the perfect Abrams film, Abrams produced film by any means, but I mean, for kind of the circumstances and the scrutiny, I had a good time with it. It reminded me of a film I watched recently called The Black Hole by Disney, where it's like a weird science fiction film. And I enjoyed that, so I enjoyed Real Paradox. It's not base until it's not. I'm sure you could pick it apart, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, here's the thing about Cloverfield Paradox, and I've seen it twice. I saw it Monday morning because I was like, I didn't feel like I don't really like watching movies late at night, so I was just gonna watch. So I watched it early in the morning on Monday, and I really liked it. And I do agree with people. I love this idea of just not knowing about the movie.
Right.
And,
yeah. I mean, when was the last time you felt like that?
I mean, not in a while. I mean, other than like festival screenings, where all you have to go on is that you know that a certain actor is going to be in it, and then maybe a short synopsis. But even for Cloverfield Paradox, I really had no idea what to expect. I didn't know what. I just knew it was a Cloverfield movie, and I knew that Abrams produced it, and a couple people I recognized and the cast list were in it. So that was it. That was all I had.
Okay.
And I really liked the first time, and then later that night I was at like my D&D night, and my friends wanted to watch Cloverfield Paradox, and so I watched it again there. And the second time I did notice a lot of things just not adding up. Like there's really no rules or rhyme to how anything is working. But the thing is, though, it's not like nihilistic, like Ridley Scott's Prometheus or Alien Covenant.
Yeah, it's not.
but it's also not like cruel, extremely cruel like Life. It's just like a fun, it's a fun science fiction movie.
Well, I would say Life was nihilistic,
Well, but Life is just cruel. Like, it's just cruel to the people on board.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, that's, sci-fi horror for you, but I mean, it's just, but even for that, it's just Life is just unrelentingly cruel.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just had a lot of fun with Cloverfield Paradox. I thought it was the perfect like sci-fi horror. Yeah, the alternate dimensions and how the rules work. Like, it never is explained how Chris O'Dowd's hand is like becomes like what's the hand in Adam's Family?
Thing, yeah.
It never Thing. Yeah, it never explains how that happens. It's just, nor does it really, and it really kind of, sort of, it barely explains how Jensen got in the wall. Like, it's all very loose, and that's kind of the issue with the movie, is that it has no real rules.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, still, despite everything, I still had fun, and I still really got into Hamilton's arc. I still got into that character. And, and...
Yeah, I mean, they were interesting characters. They had, like, she, had a arc to her, the main character did.
Yeah. And...
credit for
that she learns to let go of her family in order to save humanity.
Mm-hmm.
In order to save her dimension of humanity. Because if you noticed in like the scene where her and Jensen are fighting at the end, she has to choose between saving 3 people versus humanity. And of course, there's 3 people on the ship, but there's also 3 other people in her family. So it's like, it's just it's a very interesting arc, and it's very interesting where it ends for Hamilton. It's just kind of unfortunate that this movie also has the problem of it's a Cloverfield movie, so we have to somehow shoehorn in the Cloverfield monster into this.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And that doesn't always... And it's still... Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the physics and how maybe that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like, yeah, and that's just a big problem, is that there's just not enough rules or information to go on to basically keep everything on track.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree to that. I mean, the Cloverfield connections felt very tacked on. Like, it's very arbitrarily Cloverfield. Like, it's just kind of, it reminded me of like season 3 of Lost, where they're just kind of, other the beginning of season 3, where they didn't have an end game for it, and they were just kind of like throwing random elements in it, like Boone comes back in John Locke's like Vision Quest, and it was just
right. It's
and
like
it wasn't until the end.
It's like the writers themselves were kind of like in this purgatory of this mental purgatory of like, well, where do we go? Like, how much longer should we tell the story? How much more should we plan to keep going? And because I've never watched all of Lost, but I know that was but I know the 3rd season was problematic because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. But yeah, I think it's not terrible, but it's kind of some of the, I wouldn't say worst aspects of J.J. Abrams, but his kind of, something like Cloverfield is the Abrams product, and then Cloverfield Paradox is the not so great. The other end of that spectrum where it has a lot of where people make games. This had a lot of tropes that you could like joke about on a thread or something, like a twist or some of
the reveal of the mystery box.
Yeah, it's like very mystery boxy. It's very like twist. Like a stereotype of Abrams' work,
Is the mystery box?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's too mystery boxy.
Well, I mean, that's Abrams' whole... that's his whole auteur... If
Right.
you want to consider that his auteur thing, is that he loves building the mystery and building the idea and loves the idea of the mystery box. And it's a great... it can be a great storytelling device. The problem is when you build up the mystery of certain things, as like these big reveals that they're going to be huge and they're going to be game changing, and then you follow it up with, and then you don't really quite know how you're going to follow it up. It doesn't really go well.
Yeah, it reminded me of kind of another Abrams, alum, what's his name? David Lindelof, when he was doing Tomorrowland and kind of producing it and writing it. It was very mystery boxy, but it didn't have anything. It didn't have anything really to kind of go with this mystery box. It built up to nothing. It was more reminiscent of like Tomorrowland, I would say.
This movie?
Yeah. In a very that's how I would kind of compare it to.
Yeah. That's a good example. The only thing I would say about that comparison is that Lindelof, I don't think, quite understands what makes the mystery box that Abrams keeps putting in his movies work so well. I don't think he quite understands it either. Because
no, I think he does, but sometimes he just gets it. He just kind of messes up the formula or tinkers or forgets what makes it so important.
Right. I just think Lindelof doesn't quite, for me personally, I don't think Lindelof quite understands that you have to give people, if you're going to lead people on, you have to give them something satisfying, and you don't have to answer every question, but you have to answer the most important. And yeah, it can be tough as a showrunner or a screenwriter or a producer to figure out, what is the right questions to answer. But in the end, I still think fans of Lost kind of felt like, well, there's still stuff that's just not answered, but we're still stuck. But the show is gone, and the show's been done with for somewhat almost close to a decade, and we're still left with answers or questions.
Yeah.
And even Prometheus is the same way. You have all these questions that were built up in Prometheus, but got and not that this was Lindelof's fault, but in Covenant they kind of just were like, yeah, we're just gonna kill them all. Fuck it. We're just gonna kill all the engineers. Fuck it.
Right.
We're gonna. You like Nui Replace? Fuck it. We're killing her too. We're gonna take it.
Oh yeah.
Just forget it never happened.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. So Cloverfield Paradox. I would say it's a really good. I think it's perfect for Netflix.
Yeah, I believe so. I was getting really tired of that complaint where someone was like, I don't know if you saw that being thrown around, but it's like it was a sci-fi channel film or like a direct to DVD movie. Hey, I worked on some of those direct, sci-fi channel films, and it's like it has way higher production quality than that,
Yeah, it's still incredible to look at, and that's the thing is that's the thing too. I mean, I think we both agree that Bright is not that great in general, but every now and then, I mean, Netflix does, like, they try to put their money where their mouth is. They try and make films of quality. Like, they try and make shows and films of quality. So,
I think there hasn't been like a great Netflix film. There have been good films from Netflix. I saw a Stupid and Futile Gesture a couple days ago, and that was great. I think, or not great. It was good. It was watchable. Mudbound is certainly a very critically acclaimed film. But there hasn't been Mute. You might say films are like direct to DVD quality. I mean, if you look at Bright, I mean, it's a shitty movie, but it had like a huge budget. It was $90 million. I don't know where that money went, but it was a $90 million movie.
It went all to Max Landis.
Yeah, right.
Except for $100,000, and then they got all the actors to work on discount. But yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was waiting for you.
But yeah, I don't think this movie is direct to DVD quality. I think and when I mean it's perfect for Netflix, it's perfect in that you can watch this anytime, and you can sit down, watch it, and get through with it in like an hour and a half. Like, I mean, yeah, it's an hour. Yes, or an hour and 42 minutes. You can get through it and be like, okay, cool. I'm going to go and move on to my next thing. It's not, it's perfect for Netflix because you can, and even if you're kind of bored or you want to make a sandwich, it's not the kind of movie that it's like, it's going to immediately engross you. So it's just, so I personally think, I think Paramount and Abrams, they made the wise decision to put it on Netflix because it's just it's a $40-45 million, blockbuster or sci-fi, blockbuster that it's not like, it's not great, but but if you are just wanting to sit on Netflix and you already have the subscription, go ahead and watch it. Go for it.
Yeah, it's free if you pay for Netflix.
Yeah.
My friend that pays for Netflix.
Yeah, do it. So, and that's kind of my recommendation, is that it's just perfect for Netflix. So Gene, before we get off of Cloverfield Paradox, I have to ask you one more question, and it's that, do you think this is what Paramount and Netflix did this weekend? Do you think it's any at all a game changer?
I don't know. I feel like it wasn't unprecedented. I mean, if you look at what's that film? The Interview, it was kind of the same thing that happened where, well, I mean, for obviously different reasons, where it didn't get distributed, it got dropped online like within a short period of time, and it wasn't advertised as much, or excuse me, not advertised. It was advertised as in to digital. So I don't know. I don't think it was unprecedented. Maybe this sort of higher end film could be different, but it's a game changer to see.
Well, and also there was another movie that Legendary Pictures had for so many, like, kind of had in their, kind of sitting on a shelf for a year or two, called Spectral.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
I didn't either, but I know that finally got just put on Netflix, and that's where people can watch it and find it.
Yeah.
Because for years they were wanting to put that, they made it, and they wanted to get it distribution. It just never quite happened, either because Universal didn't want to distribute it or whatever. So Legendary just finally sold it to Netflix, and so it isn't unprecedented. But I think what people are thinking about as a game changer is if the movie is not testing well, and if the movie is not doing quite as well, because also we have to keep in mind Paramount's not doing as well as like a Disney or Warner Brothers. In fact, they're kind of in the low end, and they kind of need a cinematic hit like a Mission Impossible.
Right.
And so recently they got 2 movies that they tested, this one and Annihilation, that didn't test well, but they are selling so they're selling distribution rights to Netflix. Now Annihilation is still coming out in theaters here in America in 2 weeks. But yeah, in 2 weeks from, or in a month from now, it'll be on Netflix in all international territories. So yeah, and of course, as we know, test screenings go, not every test audience is perfect in terms of what their test audiences can kind of be, can kind of make or break a movie. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so I guess it's a game changer in that maybe if this doesn't work, maybe other distributions, or if test audiences don't like it, or it's just not, there's not a lot of confidence behind this view, maybe instead of giving a movie a January or February release, or I guess a September release, they would just, dump it on Amazon or Netflix to like see if a movie can find an audience there.
Yeah.
Because technically right now, most things on Netflix are still, for whatever reason, they're considered a hit, as I do quotations. So I don't, it's not unprecedented, but it will be interesting to see if this has any more effect. And in an interview, I think either today or yesterday, Abrams said that in his kind of like, kind of promoting the movie way, that he loved the idea of distributing the movie on Netflix because it was a new way to kind of surprise people that this movie was coming out.
Yeah.
And that's been always his goal with these movies, is to surprise people, be like, oh, and now it's coming out. So I think in this isolated case for Cloverfield Paradox, I think it works just fine. I think it worked fine for this. We'll see in a couple weeks how the movie fares how Annihilation fares internationally on Netflix. But
yeah, we'll see.
But right now, Annihilation's getting good buzz right now. So we'll see. Do you have any more thoughts on that, Gene?
Yeah, I mean, we'll, again, like I would comes out and see, based on more than one case, how this model works. But yeah, I mean, you can't predict the future, so see what happens.
Yep. All right, so are you ready to wrap up Cloverfield Paradox?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Gene, where can the good people find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter, Gene9892 at yahoo.com. Shoot me to an email. Twitter, Instagram. You can follow the Waffle Press on Twitter and YouTube.
All right, cool. And And you can find me on Twitter at MovieKale. And also you can follow the channel, the Distributes This Podcast at KHC Network. And you can also follow the podcast itself at the Youth Critic. Thanks, Gene, for coming on. And we'll be back soon with something. This upcoming weekend, we got a Clint Eastwood movie that's not even getting screened, and we got 50 Shades Freed, and then we got James Gordon as a talking rabbit. What are you gonna do?
Not going to the theater.
No, not good. Not good. Not good, but you know what? And I'm happy we're getting Black Panther next weekend. But man, It really scared everybody away.
Right. Oh
my God. So we'll come back with something. Hey, Abrams, drop something on Netflix so we can talk about something else. All right. We'll see it. We'll see everybody next week.
I have to be quick. Whatever you're doing right now, stop. Go to your children right now. Kiss them. Hold them for as long as you can. That's all there is. Right now.